On the show, for her reaction to this a short time ago, we had the Shadow Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews, who says TikTok should be banned on government devices here in Australia.
We should not have access to that on our phones, and we should be very closely monitoring the data that has been collected so far from those individuals who do have TikTok on their devices. So that's the first step, but there really needs to be some serious investigation work done.
Let's go to Canberra now. Joining us is the independent MP, Allegra Spender, the member for Wentworth. Allegra, thanks for your time. We'll just start there because that's where we are. Would you support a TikTok being banned on government devices?
Look, I think we should absolutely look at that. I take, the reports from coming out of the US very seriously, and I think our Intelligence and Security Committee should be looking at these issues because, cyber security is one of the, I think, biggest threats, both sort of to us, our defence, but also to our businesses as well.
OK, onto the economy. The government's going after franking credits, Allegra, after trimming super tax breaks for the wealthy. Should concessions for franking credits be wound back?
Look, I've got some concerns with what the legislation they have put forward. For me, we want everybody in this country to pay their fair deal of tax. And I think that's, something that's universally held. But I'm certainly hearing from businesses, including private businesses, they're concerned that they could be tied up into these sort of franking credit changes. So I'm really listening to those concerns quite carefully. So I'm still forming my position on this because it's pretty technical, but I do have concerns with what they're trying to do here.
Are you concerned across the board, the approach and the attack on retirees across the board at the moment?
Look, I've always had this position that we need to have a broader look at, at our tax system and to really look at sort of how do we set up our tax system, that is fair, equitable and drives growth into the future. And so, these are changes that are much more piecemeal. And so I think there are some questions across the community of, why are we taking, just going after this bit or this bit? Why don't we have a more significant approach? Because, people in my community are saying, well, did they have to come to the retirees? Could they have looked at, things like the resources sector? There are high coal and gas prices right now. Are Australia getting enough money from that there? So that's really the concern I have. As I said previously, a lot of my community actually supports the super, the changes to the super concessions, tax concessions. But I think we've got some, I don't particularly saying, look, I don't love this piecemeal approach. I think we can do a much more strategic approach to tax.
Yeah, and just on super, I spoke to you about this 2 weeks ago because so many beneficiaries are in your electorate. So have you settled on a position on super? And also, I should add that it would also include taxes on unrealised gains, which worries a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's, so broadly speaking, I've done a really big survey across my community. Over 80% of my community have come to me and said they actually support this. Even people who are personally affected by it are saying, we support this change. So there is actually a lot of support in the community. However, it is, as you mentioned, on unrealised gains, that is a concern for people, particularly people who've got houses or businesses or liquid assets. So that is an area that I'm talking to the government about, and I think, understanding how that's really practical and possible, particularly for people who have made decisions in good faith, put things away in good faith, and also the lack of indexing is the other key concern that I have with the legislation.
That's right, yeah, because they were playing by the rules up until this point, and then the goalposts get shifted. My question about the unrealised gains is, and this is very technical and it can be confusing for a lot of people, but what is not confusing is taxing something that hasn't been sold. How on earth is that fair?
Yeah. Look, it's difficult. And I, it's fine if it's easier, it's clearer if you've got shares, but if you've got, as you say, a property, a business, people have put shares of businesses into super for good reason. So that is the area that I think I have the greatest concern of in terms of the super changes. And on a broad brush, I think my community, is open to people with large balances to be paying, a higher rate of tax. But it's that piece that I think is of greatest concern.
So have you come up with a hard yes or a hard no on the super changes yet?
Not yet. I'm still. No, it's going to come. I think I think I'm most likely to support it, but I want to see changes in relation to unrealised gains. That's the piece that I want to see changing.
All right, that's what we're holding out for. All right, on to a final one here. Energy prices this morning, they're going to jump about 20% for about 600,000 consumers from July 1 the next financial year. Is the government paying a price for demonising coal and gas here?
Look, I think, to be honest, we're paying a price for a war overseas and the gas and coal prices. What I think the government really needs to do to help households is to help households invest in electrification. Because if you've got solar on your roof right now, you are not subject to these price hikes. But a lot of renters and apartment dwellers, people in my electorate, can't find it really difficult to get there. So I think and a lot of people on low incomes who can't afford the sort of upfront costs. So I think that's where the government should really be investing in household electrification, because it means that we're less subject to those international fluctuations in prices.